That's pretty cool. All right, we're live on YouTube and turning this mic over to you, Lorri Coburn. And I do see Dove. So here we go. Pretty cool.
Here I am too, and there's Lori and Mickey and Karen put a video on this morning. And Cher, hello Cher. Oh, you look so cute, Cher, in that hat. I love it. It looks beautiful on you. Hi, pretty girls. It's
Morning.
I
Good
think Karen
morning.
has a screen. I always think that's her apartment, but I think it's a screen.
Yeah, it's a screen. You can tell. Yeah.
I
So
didn't. I couldn't tell. I always thought, well, she has such a nice apartment.
when Lynn first said that, Sharon and Dove, you weren't showing up in the Zoom room. So, but now you guys both are. So, anyway, we are on the review of lessons 97 and 98. But I'm going to go to lesson 100 because a particular section in that really helped me this week. But this week has been a really cool week, starting out with seeing Sharon and Altoona, and then seeing Zulma and Karen Monday morning. And today well, yeah, and yesterday I saw, oh no, Tuesday I saw a woman named Myrna Smith, who is a course student, and I met her in Mexico. And then today I'm seeing Corinne Zupko. So it's been an intense week. It's been a lot of fun, really intense. But it's also been very intense because on Easter I did a ashes. I spread my dad's ashes here by my sister's house in near Philadelphia in Doylestown. And so it's been, I want to read this one paragraph and then I'll piggyback from that. And this is in lesson 100, paragraph 5. And the lesson is my part is essential in God's plan for salvation. Paragraph 5 reads, "We will not let ourselves be sad today. For if we do, we fail to take the part that is essential to God's plan as well as to our vision. Sadness is the sign that you would play another part instead of what has been assigned to you by God. Thus do you fail to show the world how great the happiness He wills for you, and so you do not recognize that it is yours." And that has been particularly key for me this week because I came here last fall. And at that time, I came with my sister and brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is failing, and the sister I live with, and brother-in-law I live with. And then we also saw at that time my nephew, who was, at that time, he was doing fine. But then in January, he took a downturn. And so he passed away in March. So I've seen, so I've always had an issue about my family members dying. And so now they're all dying. uh, and my niece, who is only 62 and now is a widow, she doesn't like that word, and I don't like that word either. But she's doing great. She is really, really doing great. And I got to spend a lot of time with her this trip. And then with my grandniece, their daughter, who's having a harder time because she just lost her dad, and it's hard. But anyway, when it says we will not let ourselves be sad today, grief and loss have been my middle name. And it's really funny because when I saw Zulma and Karen on Monday, it was so much fun to meet them in person. Zulma said, "Your middle name should be relationships," or something like that. And yes, relationships have always been the thing. I'm a Libra, like triple Libra. I mean, just like everything's in Libra. And the relationships have always been super important to me. When I travel to see people. I, I like traveling different places, but it's always to visit people I love. Um, so this trip, when I scattered my dad's ashes, my sister said, "Oh, I still have some of Dad's ashes," and I'm like, "Oh, well, it's Easter. I'm going to scatter his ashes at this place that we always used to go to." And so I did that, and it's this walking around the block at my sister's house, it's over 3 miles. It's a wooded area. And there's this old mill and sheep farm. And the mill was built before the Revolutionary War. And then there's this creek down below my sister's house that I scattered the ashes at the mill area and then at the creek because we used to always take this walk with my dad, and I've taken the walk with my first husband and taken the walk with Rod, and so it's been like really bittersweet, but I've been so committed to letting go of the past and not going into grief and loss and believing in that. So it's been a challenge because that's been tempting. And then I had this dream about letting go of Rod as my romantic partner. Now we are still one, of course, but letting go of all of the thoughts about him as having been a romantic partner. I woke up feeling really sad from that. And then I got a meditation about, no, this guy that you think that you've been kind of attracted to at church, he's really not the one for you. And I'm like, oh, I saw the ego temper tantrum rise up with disappointment and anger and trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with that. But anyway, I am so committed to letting go of the past. Atonement might be equated with total escape from the past and total lack of interest in the future. Heaven is here, there is nowhere else. Heaven is now, there is no other time. And I used to have that as my closing statement for my Course in Miracles meeting way, way, way back when, 10, 15 years ago. So that phrase has been very important to me, and I've applied it as best as I could. But now it's like really, 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 really total commitment. Come on, present moment, because there's nothing else. And being in that place, because being older, as we all of us in this room are, people around us are dying, and you can't go into the past. You can't hold on. You can't fear the death of people. And since grief, I always said grief, misery, all that misery, depression, despair was my middle name. I like better what Zulma says. Relationships is your middle name. Loving relationships that are eternal, because we know that holy relationships are eternal because it's the Christ. It's the one Christ in all of us. So when this paragraph says, we will not let ourselves be sad today, for if we do, we fail to take the part that is essential to God's plan as well as to our vision. Sadness is the sign that you would play another part. And for me, that other part is believing that I'm this dream character who has always been sad, who has always been grief-stricken and worried about family members dying. And so being at my sister's house right now, this sister has been like a second mother to me. She's always been very important to me. And we have come to Pennsylvania every year, almost every year for 50 years. And so it's a second home, it's a second mother, and my sister's failing. She's 84 and she's failing. And that's what I felt last fall, and it's what I feel now. And it's like, you know what? Stop. My sister's the Christ. My sister is one with me. My sister is a dream character. It's the dream. And I've had this beautiful, beautiful family. My family's very loving. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with their family members, and I never really have. It's been a super, super huge blessing. And so we're so lucky and we're so blessed. But that sadness, the temptation to go into sadness and the temptation to go into feeling like I'm the dream character who's going to be so sad. And yeah, I do feel the sadness, but I let it wash through and go through me instead of getting stuck on it and believing it. And I used to really believe the emotions that I had. I used to cry and cry and cry and feel that when I cried, I had hit the mark. This is the truth because I'm crying about it. Well, now I see it was the ego truth. It was the ego truth that would keep me from what I really am, which is the Christ, the presence of love and life and wholeness in this now moment, which now finally I experience, and I experience it a lot. maybe not in the mystical way I read about in books, but I do. It's wonderful and so interesting. Right outside the window here, there's a cardinal couple. There's the male and there's the female, and they're just playing around. It's it's really nice. I know cardinals are supposed to be signs of people who have passed on, but well, the people that pass on, they're all here anyway. Don't need a sign for that. So anyway, I sprinkled my dad's ashes in the stream, some of them, and then I went back to the stream 2 days later, and you could still see the ashes that were they had settled on some rocks in the stream bed, and they were like silver glints, really pretty, and they hadn't washed away. It was kind of cool to see that. It reminds me of that poem that people put in the funeral homes on the backs of the memorial cards. It says, you know, don't grieve, don't stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand diamond glints on the snow. And these were like diamond glints in the creek bed. Yeah, Karen's putting up hearts on that. And so yes, feeling all that love. And it was just so much fun with Karen and Zulma on Monday. It was just like this love fest. We were just laughing and having so much fun and the connection. And we had never met in the body before, but of course we know the body doesn't matter, that we feel these connections on these groups and everything. And it just added to it. It was just so lovely. So this paragraph here about my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. I do see that now. I could never, I mean, I've seen it for a long time, many, many years, but I could never do it before. I could never stop being sad. And today I can because I don't identify as the person who is sad. It's like my family members who are dying. If there's no my to it, if there's no ownership or identification with the body, then there can't be the sadness. It's just the flow. It's just the flow. And the flow of God and the flow of life is so rich and so full all the time. And another thing that this vacation is doing for me, it's like, it's been so intense, so intense with seeing all these loved ones and my nephew just passing away and all of this stuff. And that it's like, oh, I don't mind going home and being a little bit, I mean, I have a full busy life, but being a little bit bored because it's like, whoo, I need a break. This has been great. It was so great seeing Sharon and Cliff. It was just, again, it's just so much fun. There's so much connection in it. It was just, it's been lovely. So anyway, I'm going to let it go there. Turn it over to you, Sharon.
Oh, we had a wonderful time with you, Lori. We did. It's always too short too, but it was beautiful. And it's always good to meet people that you've known for years in form. It's just, my kids, so well, it's not Andrew, but my younger one always says, how do you like talk to people that you've never met? And, I feel like for me, I always felt like I knew them even on the computer because we're not really seeing anything. We're just seeing our thoughts, right? But at the same time, there was something in me that knew that being on the computer was really no different. You can be very close to people and never physically meet them, right? And you could say because we're the Christ and we all have a common ground, but it is fun though to meet people in form. It is. It's a fun thing because you've known them so well. When I talk about my friends, Jonathan always says, well, Mom, you didn't meet them. How could they be your friends? And you see how the ego just has these like programs in the psyche of believing everything that the ego believes. And for me, now this particular week, I kind of just focused on where am I? Because I can go under and become unconscious. And when you're unconscious, you are not present and you can't possibly know you're the Christ when you're unconscious. And being the Christ means you really are God because at no time is the Father and the Son separate. So when the lesson 97 says, I am spirit, I am the Son of God. No body can contain my spirit, nor impose on me a limitation God created not. When this Big Bang was thought of, it blew out a world. And in every moment, we or I can just go back and believe I have to get somewhere. But now I realize you really can't, it's all just happening on its own. It's organic. It's not as though um, we have choice to a limit. And then there's also the reality that who has choice? Spirit has choice. But when you merge into the field, the contextual field, you are not even seeing, it's just light. You're not seeing separate anything. These objects that we're looking at are objects of thought. That's all they are. So it's been a nice week this week. It's beautiful here today. It was beautiful yesterday. And I heard Dove say, I think it was like a week ago, say that he only wants to watch comedy. And I get that too. I'm intrigued by mystery and suspense, but when I can laugh, God knows we all love that because we're out of the body. Whenever we laugh, we are not in that. Or when you have an orgasm, you are not in your body. And that's why people crave orgasms because you are not, because the body itself hurts. It just does. It's not our home. And the character we're playing is just that, a character. So, talking to the you, which would be Holy Spirit or awareness, you are not in a body. The body is appearing in the field of awareness you are. Only beliefs make it seem otherwise. A belief is just a thought that goes unconscious. And that's exactly why rather than any other mantra, where am I? The I is not the character. And, I so understand what Lorri said because there is a habit in the psyche, at least in this psyche, that when I feel something, I really, really want to feel it. Okay, I really want to just be that and cry or feel guilty or grieve. There's nothing wrong with that either, by the way. Because if we think that grief is not God, we're mistaken. Because it's just thought. A grief is a thought, it's energy, but there's only consciousness here. And consciousness, of course, we know is the domain of the ego. But at the same time, what an experience, what a miracle we all have today. It's like, where am I is the one question I have to ask, Um, and children up until about 18 months have no sense that the body is them. And you see how happy they are? Do you ever look at a baby before they know that they're a body? They're in awe. They're in that magical wonder. They're like, ah, because it's absolutely a miracle. And Nisargadatta Maharaj said, either everything's a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And that is the truth, right? The children learn the thoughts that become beliefs that make it seem as though they are in the body rather than the body in them. And really, the body is in us. We are really the container, right? And one of the things that Keith Kavanaugh continues to teach, and I love it, is you're not that. You can't be because it's a thought. You're real, you know. And it's funny because the one of my favorite stories is the Velveteen Rabbit, and it always had a deeper meaning for me. This is for years. I love rabbits. I love the story, the velvet, because what they're saying is you become real when you realize that the bodysuit has never been anything. It's just a bunch of thoughts that we're covering the one thing that we really are, which is love. Love is all there is. And I'll bet everybody on here knows that they heard that before and heard it again and they knew it was true. And that's why no matter what anyone says about what's going on in here, they're just not paying attention to the light. Because without light, we couldn't even have this. The light of God is everywhere, everywhere, always, and I felt like there, as I would shift into awareness and feel like I want bliss all the time, but sometimes bliss is just this. The ego has an idea that bliss is like, oh, I just can't wait I just want to feel good. That's the addict in the mind. The addict wants to feel good. We can feel good even when our body doesn't feel good. We can just rise above it because we are from the higher self. We are the vision of God. We are the reflection, really. Um, your function is to heal your illusory perception of what you are as separate. It is to return to our one shared identity in the Holy Spirit. That's what's here. Spirit forgot who it was. And now it's kind of like, well, without this process, I am more than grateful. And now I want to pay attention to gratitude too, because gratitude will get you out of bed in the morning. Gratitude for everything that happens, then you really enjoy. So, anyway, over to you, Dove.
I was going to say that is wonderful, Sharon, that you really nailed it. The only problem is the identity problem. And as long as you identify yourself as a body, everything you do in this world will be going in the wrong direction because, the body wants to live longer. So we take care of the body and we worry about the body and we do everything for the body, but you're not a body. Huh? I'm not a body? Then what am I? He tells you. Lesson 97, I am spirit. Now, the body has no idea what spirit is, truly. And spirit doesn't know what the body is, by the way. Spirit, they live in two different worlds. They live in two different. Now, while you live in the world of the body, yeah, you do have to do like, well, what am I going to do for my old age? I got to take care of my old age. So I better start investing properly and getting into the right things and making sure that I have money in my old age, so I have a roof over my head. That's a whole different world than I am spirit. Now, what is my function as spirit? Today's lesson tells you. Now, I put it up in here on the board. Lesson 114, which reviews lesson 97 and 98, says, we are thus reminded of who, capital W, who we are as spirit. This remembrance comes when we accept our function of forgiveness. Forgiveness. That sounds like a familiar word here. That's my only function is forgiveness. It's not so much the words of the lesson that are important, but the willingness to think of them throughout the day. And that's by Ken Wapnick. So Ken Wapnick's commentary on today's lesson, lesson 114, is I must be willing to remember my only function here, not to save money, not to take care of my body, not to make sure of all the things the body needs, to take care of all my bodily needs. No, my only function is forgiveness. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, because I'm not a body. How's that? I am not a body. And the only thing I have to do is forgive. Now, I have a picture of that below, a little Bambi deer saying, I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. Karen says, I could see peace instead of this always. And I came across, it was Susanna who sent me this picture this morning, and I put it up here about what forgiveness is. I'm going to get a little larger so I can read it. It says, to forgive is merely to remember only, there's a key word, only the loving thoughts that you gave in the past and those that were given to you. So the love in me only wants to remember the love I've given and the love I have received. And then it says, all the rest must be forgotten. And that comes from A Course in Miracles. I can't really read where it comes from, but you can take a look at it. Oh, it comes from I can tell you a little bit later. Actually, I can tell you right now. I do have it on my. I do have it somewhere. Oh yeah, I have it right here on my phone. But it does come from the Cross America. Oh yeah, it comes from text chapter 17, section 3, first paragraph. To forgive, forgiveness is not hocus pocus. It's not like, well, what am I forgiving? To forgive is merely to remember only the loving thoughts that you gave in the past, and those that were given you, all the rest must be forgotten. So it's selective remembering. We're selecting only to remember the love that was given to us and only the love that I gave to others. Why is that? Because we are the love. That's what God is. I mean, when you say God is, what is the isness, which is your only business? The isness is love. And that's unconditional love. That's not love where, oh, I love you only if. No, there's no only if. Love just simply love. Yeah. So today's lesson, which is basically reminding us of our only function, and he tells you this in so many other places. Lesson 62 says, "Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world." Oh, really? Maybe I have another function, like saving money or taking care of my wounds. Maybe no, 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 no. It's my only function as the light. Oh, if I'm living in the dark, I got a lot of other functions because I have to defend myself from the light. No, I am the light. The whole problem is a problem of identity. If you identify with your darkness, which is I got to defend against others who might be out to hurt me, and if I defend myself, I'm attacking myself. There's a word for that, if anyone can remember what the word is. But basically, it's the name of a disease where you're attacking your own body. Maybe someone can come up with that. I can't right now. And if you go into that lesson 62, it says, "Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world." It says, "I would fulfill my function that I may be happy." Oh, you mean my function and my happiness are really identical, the same? Yeah. It says, "I would remember this because I want to be happy." Let's see. Happiness is the will of God. God's will for me is perfect happiness. So really what I want is God's will for me, not my ego's will for me. My ego's will, somebody put it in the message. Yes, yes. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you. Autoimmune. Yes. An autoimmune disease is when you're attacking your own body, period. Now, how could you attack your own body unless your mind is attacking your body? If my mind's only function is to forgive, and I am busy, busy, busy trying to take care of my body so that I can have more health, guess what? That's called an autoimmune disease. My mind is in the wrong place. I'm living in the dark, going through all kinds of crazy things, medicines and doctors and hospitals and surgery. For what? Didn't we start this off today by saying, I am not a body? I'm free of the body. I'm still as God. God doesn't create bodies. As Dove likes to say, God doesn't create junk. Thank you, Mickey, for that autoimmune. Yes. And with that, at the top of the hour, Karen, I see your hand is up. Go ahead, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, Dove. Thanks, Lorri. Thanks, Sharon. And it was great meeting Lorri. It was such a nice surprise. It really, really was. We had such a great time. Um, And just commenting on what Lori shared about death, um, I just found out that a really good friend of mine died. I grew up with him, and my sister texted me and she said it's really sad. And the first thing that came to me was I was so happy for him. I'm so happy for him. When people die, I'm actually happy for them now. It's not a sadness because no one dies without his own consent. And it's a decision. It's also, as Dove said, like the body wants to live longer and all this stuff. And it's such a weight. The body is such a weight. The body is such a distraction. And to get out of this, if it's time to leave this world, like I'm actually looking forward to it, to be honest with you. So whoever leaves this world, I am happy for them. I am not sad for them. And the other thing that came up for me was when Dove was sharing about the identity problem, which is, we know the Course calls it the authority problem. And what I love about what the Course says is that this is the root of all evil. The authority problem is the root of all evil. And this is in let's see, this is in chapter 3 in section 6, judgment and the authority problem. Um, he says that I have spoken of different symptoms, and at that level, there is almost endless variation. There is, however, only one cause for all of them, the authority problem. This is the root of all evil, and is italicized. This is the root of all evil. Every symptom the ego makes involves a contradiction in terms because the mind is split between the ego and the Holy Spirit, so that whatever the ego makes is incomplete and contradictory. This untenable position is the result of the authority problem, which, because it accepts the one inconceivable thought as its premise, can produce only ideas that are inconceivable. So I love that because it's reminding me that it's the root of all evil to think that I created myself, and I am in charge of, the universe. I meaning not I meaning the ego. I meaning the ego. But I, as a decision-making mind, can choose the Holy Spirit, and I can choose to see things differently, and I can choose to see death in another way. And I love that we talked about that, Lori, when we met each other, and we both talked about the loves of our lives that we lost, and how in something we had in common that we both believed that we couldn't live without this person, literally live without this person, and to be able to live without this person and actually be happy and be grateful and know, like for me too, the other thing about death is that I know that there's a plan and the script is written. And that's so comforting to me to know that the script is written, and it wouldn't be any other way. And I couldn't change it if I wanted to. So I'm just really grateful. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to be with you all today. And I see Mickey has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Karen was saying when she first came on about being happy for people um, who have passed on and left their body. There was a while there where I would actually get really jealous of them. You know, I thought it was such a good idea that I would be like, why did they get to leave and not me? But I've kind of gotten over that a little bit. But the way I look at it is usually, I don't come out and say this to people who are grieving lost loved ones, but I think good for them. They graduated. They finished their assignments. They handed in their homework. they wrote their thesis and they got their degree, and they you know that's it for them. They're done. They finished their assignment. Move they got to move on and do whatever the next adventure is. So yeah, Karen, I completely agree with what you were saying. Good for them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Karen. And what you're saying about why did they get to leave and I didn't? That's exactly how I felt when my boyfriend died. I said, hey, wait a minute. We had this holy relationship contract and we were supposed to wake up together and you got to go and I didn't. Damn it. But he had said to me, Lorri, do you want to be out of a body? And I'm like, yes. And he goes, no, no difference. There's no difference being in a body or out of a body. And that phrase has stayed with me, and I've argued with it many times. But he's right. We're not really in a body anyway. We're home with God. So if we think we're in a body, we're misguided, we're deluded. And what you were saying, Karen, about no one dies without his own consent. I have forgotten that. I'm always happy for the people who go. I know that they're better off, but I forget that all the time. Like I've been thinking all this time that my nephew, you know, he didn't want to die. He was young. He was only 64. Um, his wife didn't want that. But, we all have the script that we agree to. We do. And so the ego wants to stay sad and stay like, oh, this isn't right. And this isn't fair. And this is awful. And this is horrible. That's what the ego wants to do. But the ego is actually doing what it really wants to do, as far as the choosing to drop the body, and they've graduated, like you were saying, Mickey, and I have my nephew's picture, the memorial card on the dresser. And at first I was feeling really sad about it. And then I'm like, wait, stop, stop. That's why that paragraph, we will not let ourselves be sad today, was so important to me. It's like, you know what? Stop. Be happy for him. He is free. He's out of his constraints of this world. And my niece, she's free too. It's like she's free to create and do and travel and whatever. She's free, but we're all free. We are all free right now. And just like you said, Dove, the only problem we have is the identity problem. We think we're not free. We think we are in these bodies, in this world. But I love what, I can't remember who sent it, but it was a group thread email, and it said about lesson 12, if you would allow the world to be meaningless and have truth be written on it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. And so I wrote that down and put it in where I look at things. And it's like, yeah, when I do remove all my judgments, I am very happy. We think that it's the trees or the creeks or the people that are making us happy, but it's really truly our only our inner sense that's making us happy. Like Sharon, you said, we're joyful because we're joyful inside. We are that joy, and I see that coming out more and more and more. And I remember what you said there, Karen. You said a couple weeks before my husband committed, he said to me, if something happens to me, be happy for me. I love that. Yes, be happy for these people who have dropped their bodies, but also be happy for everyone, because you know what? We're all doing what we want to do. We are. Even if we appear to be suffering, we want that. And we have been given the free will, even though that's not how the Course uses free will, but we do have the free will to do what we want to do. And we want to experience all the craziness here. Yeah. Yeah, I know that's what you meant. Karen committed suicide or died from suicide, as they like to say now. It's less pejorative, I guess. So anyway, Sharon, you were saying, how could your son say, how could you be friends with these people you've never met? Well, because we know that bodies aren't important. And we know that the spirit is there. It doesn't even matter. But yes, it's fun. It's just fun. So here we are. appearing to be in this world of form, and we can have fun when we meet each other. And I see that. Mickey, you have your hand up, and let you go, and then when you're done, turn it over to Sharon.
Thanks, Lori. I really like that. There's no difference, between us being in a body and us being in spirit. And in reality, that that is true. There is no difference. We're learning no matter where we are. But I think that we're given an opportunity when we're in a body that's maybe a little faster just because the lessons are so profound. But like Karen always likes to say, this is a classroom. It's all a classroom. I just think that when we're in a body, the lessons are a little more intense, and maybe we get to learn a little bit more or a little bit faster or something like that. I don't know. But I just have a sense that there's some reason why we do this. There has to be a reason why we do this. Otherwise, it would just be completely insane. Anyway, I'll hand it over to Sharon. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Mickey. It's taken, in time, it seems like it's taken us a while. Like I hear people say they've been doing the course 40 years and they haven't felt any truth or whatever. I felt this from the beginning. When I did the course lessons, and this is 20 years already, that I felt space. Those early lessons are a gift. Like I would say it was one of the biggest gifts I've ever received. Those first 50 lessons, they're absolute genius. And it comes from Jesus, who is us. So really, it comes from us, every one of us. In reality, there was never a Jesus. This is just a story playing in my mind. And when we look at where we are now and the fact that, some people say, well, you have to do the course every day, or you have to do this, or you don't have to do anything.
Right.
That's the whole point in A Course in Miracles. Now, the course is something that I feel mitigates our guilt. It's because if you were just going to wake up, and there are people that have woken up that I know completely and didn't know what happened to them, and it takes as long as it takes because there's one sun waking up. But it's so joyful to know that the calling was deep within us and that we were just blessed to take, our place among all teachers, because everybody is a teacher. In reality, you cannot, even in our dream, there's no teacher but us, because we are the one that is the dreamer. So it's just interesting how much growth takes place. But it's not like I've made this decision. The character never makes this decision because we're mind, and the mind's decision. And how that happens, I have no clue. In fact, the best thing I can take away every day is if I know anything, then I'm lying. Because all the mind is doing is trying to distract me from here-ness, which is right here, right now. The nowness is what we are. We don't need to play anymore. Honestly, I feel like I love the game, and that's why it's kept me involved. And I still think for this character, I watched The Handmaid's Tale with my husband, and we like it. I don't take it like it's going to happen here because nobody knows a thing. I don't know if anyone else watched it because it's pretty dark. It's a dark one, but the acting is like, well, again, Source is doing it all. I mean, we could say that the actress did a good job or we did a good job, but Source is living through our genes and conditioning. That's all there is. And the decisions that we make are really happening from the mind. Every decision is really a decision to make for spirit. Own it now. Walk away as everything, because that's what we are. We're lying to ourselves to continue to say, like, I love I wish that Karen and Mickey would come on every week, because I like when the group shares. I think we're so equal that I love when everybody just shares together. That's why I love Thankful Thursdays and Tuesdays too, because everybody's in this. And, the more it's like when two or more are gathered, ideas grow stronger. So looking at death, I love what Karen said, because when we go to sleep at night, we're gone. We're not in any world. We just are where we are. That's what's going to happen, I think. Exactly when the moment of our body's transcendence, uh, we will be in bliss, because that's what God is. So it's kind of exciting too to look at death as like a gift, And when you said you were happy for your friend that passed, that is a beautiful way to look at it. Because if we keep the ego wants nothing more than to grieve, because it wants us to realize it's real. It wants us to go back in the memory bank and pick out all the special things about us, so we'll stay in a jail. That's what it really is. It's a jail. A lot of books talk about the word. The word, the word, the word. The word is, the word of God is the atonement. That's what we are. We're the walking activity of the atonement. We're all walking each other home, right? And we have a function to heal our illusory perception, because they're just thoughts. And we're in a place now where space is really all there is, because when we see a obstacle to peace, we're just basically um, feeding the wrong wolf. I think there's a story that I heard once about the wolf. I assume about the wolf, and it was a grandfather talking to his grandson, and he said, "Which wolf should I pick, grandfather?" And he said, "The wolf that loves you." That's the whole point, to just be with the love. Years ago they used to have, I never went to one, but they had Be the Love conferences. You know, I didn't go. I have no idea. The only thing that I ever went to was the one in Colorado with Dietrich. Retreat. Oh no, that's not true. I was in with Vicky Poppy years ago. I went to one of her, up in that area. I went to a retreat. The most beautiful part about doing the Course in Miracles is that we created this book, a map. There's no Jesus and there's no anyone. So it's just this oneness. And isn't that gorgeous? Think about it. It's like, it is what Ken says. It's a beautiful symphony of notes, of gorgeous notes of joy, because we all want to get out of here. Let's face it, when I found this book, I said, this is surely, a lottery ticket. It really is, because nobody's happy here. And the one person that says it over and over is Ken Wapnick. Nobody wants to come here, he says. Nobody wants to come here. But nobody will admit it, because we have all our attachments. But it's not about them. They're projections. And we believe, at least I hate when I say we, but it does happen organically. It happens in an auto process. It just comes out like that. But it's really I, because we are all the eyes. It's just like this one I am spirit. I mentioned, I think it was to Karen and Lorri, in the fall, I think we should all go, if it's possible, that we meet in New York, because, that's probably the middle, for everyone here. Or Philadelphia. Philadelphia is pretty good too, whichever anybody decides. But I think it would be nice and fun to stay at a hotel and just enjoy ourselves, and just be in that great, just in that great place where you just love everyone. Now, when I look out and see people and I think I love them, that's specialness. I can't love someone because they're just so nice. I have to love because everything here is. And when we see things that are awful happening on the screen because that's what we are, we're the screen. Why not look at that as everybody wanted this? Every single being wanted this. Nobody is playing, I often have said, like, I can't believe some people have these like scripts that are awful. I mean, there are. The Holocaust apparently was awful. I mean, all of it, but it didn't really happen in a world. It happened in the Matrix. So just to pull back and to realize my function is from moment to moment is where am I? Where am I now? Where have I always been? And to really just contemplate, we are not these people. We're just a voice, you know? And well, I think Lynn just wrote something and I heard it, I don't know what it was, but crying is also joyful. I don't look at crying or laughing as any difference. Yeah, they're doing what they wanted to do, having this spirit. Yeah, we're all doing that. But at the same time, if I do cry, because I'm a crier, I can cry just from just the beauty of the world. So it's just, but I know what Lynn was saying. Don't feel bad for people when they're suffering, because that suffering is their gift. Don't feel bad for anybody. They're getting out of here. And I tend to really be attracted to empathy and compassion. And at this point, the only thing that I can look at is the absolute oneness that we all are. Over to you, Doug.
Okay, that was terrific, Sharon. Okay. All the people here that said that they really feel good about people who have left already. So no less than the Pope Francis, who almost the entire world adores. And by the way, his new book is coming out, which is about his youth in Argentina. So those people who follow Sebastian, a few of us here do, know about his youth in Argentina. But something he said, and it just came out last night on CNN, which I didn't even know. It's not a book. He wrote the preface for one of the cardinals, Cardinal Angelo Scola, and it's coming out. It's going to be released this Thursday. So the parting words from Pope Francis is in a text set to be released on Thursday, and what he says is, death is not the end of everything, but the beginning, of something. My mother had an expression, this world is Mesha Kapea. Now, for those people who speak a little Yiddish, Mesha Kapea is upside down. And the Course tells you, the Course of Miracles tells you that this world is upside down. I mean, who would want to really come here? Well, we come here out of guilt, trying to prove that we're innocent. That's who comes here. But there's nothing to be guilty about. That's what the atonement is for. So life really begins when you leave this world of the belief in wrongdoing, in guilt, and something that never happened. Isn't that Mesha Kapea, upside down? Really? Of course it is. So the idea I was listening to Ken Lapping today, and he said the human brain cannot conceive of spirit because the human brain works in dimensions. I mean, it measures, that's why my birthday lesson 133, I will not value what is valueless. What's valuable belongs to me. And what's the definition of something that's valueless? Anything that can be measured. You can't measure God. The human brain has no idea what God is, has no idea what spirit is, mainly because the human brain deals in measurements.
So good to see you. You
Is there someone speaking? I don't know. Anyway, I'm thinking of when we used to buy a television set in the old days, and it was a 17-inch set, and then it was a 19-inch set, and then it was a 21-inch set, and then it was a 25-inch set, and then they got into these new ones. It's 3 feet by 4 feet, and then it's 6 feet by 8 feet, and I now see things like 10 feet by 12 feet. Can you imagine? Well, the brain only thinks in measurements. You cannot measure the unlimited. You cannot measure the eternal. And the brain is always about measurement. So the idea that, oh, well, I don't want to die because, I mean, die means the end of my thinking brain that doesn't think at all. He tells you this over and over and over. Your brain doesn't think. Your brain makes up stories for you to believe, stories that are lies that comfort me. Oh, well, if I do this, I'm going to live 10 years longer. It's always measuring, always measuring. You know, if you're measuring, you're not the Son of God. I mean, the Son of God lives in the eternal now. Doesn't, you know, and what is eternity but endless nows? It's always now. It's always the present. Present is always, siempre, always. And I think I'll be glad to turn this mic on over to, and I agree with you, Sharon. I love Thursdays too, because we all get together. Thankful Thursdays is wonderful. So anyone want to pick up the mic? Please do.
I'll pick it up. I like what Lynn, you wrote on the board. This is why we don't cry for them. They are doing what they wanted to do, having the experience we asked for. I don't think we come here from guilt. We come for curiosity and attraction. We stay because of guilt. Or we can also stay out of curiosity and attraction, or curiosity in the sense of we can stay with this sense of wonderment of, you know, hey, I'm not even this all this stuff that appears to be outside of me is really in the mind. And in that way, we're actually not even staying, we're actually home when we recognize that. So yeah, it's this lesson today, I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. It says we take a stand on but one side today. We side with truth and let illusions go. We will not vacillate between the two, but take a firm position with the one. And you know, yeah, Lynn, you're right. Yes, as long as it's interesting. And it's always interesting. It is always interesting, except, you know, what I found this week was saying to myself, I am not interested in my stories, but I've been saying that for a long time, but I'm not interested in sadness anymore. I'm not feeding this. I'm not interested in comparing relationships, comparing people. I'm just not interested in it. And that's what a lot of people say. A lot of the teachers will say that the ego only stays active, that chattering that goes on only stays active as long as you're interested in it and you're feeding it. So the background elevator music of the chattering ego mind that we all have, and we all tend to have it on certain types of things. If we're not interested in that anymore, it'll die down, and it does, because I have found that when I've said, you know what, I'm just not interested. No, thanks. I don't want to feed that. Nope. When that thought comes up, it's like, oh, just, you know, swat it away like you would, you know, swat away a fly. And it does die down. So that's what's so beautiful. And what you were saying, Dove, about all those big TVs, and that reminded me of what you also say about the Antichrist is more, a bigger and bigger and bigger TV. And the United States, I mean, we have so much money and wealth here. We've gotten the bigger plates and the bigger mattresses and the bigger food portions and all this, and it's in the bigger houses. It's like, oh my God, these houses that are being built, it's crazy. And I see Sharon's hand is up, and then Zulma's going to come on, so I'll say adios here. So go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, I just want to say I started the book, I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You by James Twyman. And it's fabulous, especially at a time like now, because what Jimmy's doing in this book is giving us examples of how fixed we are in thinking we know something. And it's a political book because he's had his own, you know, pretty much his own desire to transcend that too. Because, you know, so many people in this world are in that paradigm where they're just, it's us or them, and it's just the opposites. And this book, Lori had brought up to me. Actually, I saw it on her Facebook, and the whole thing that Jimmy's really bringing to, his readers is that we want to be right. We want to believe that we know, but we don't. Sometimes the worst things that happen in this world end up being the best things. Not sometimes, all the time, because everything happens in the dream for the Son of God. Everything. And that's hard for me because when I think about like when people are like, serial killers and all that other garbage, you think, wow, that's awful. But nobody's dying. It's just a complete movie, a projection of the one mind. So anyway, over to Zoom. Oh, Dove. Okay. Oh, Dove, you look so cute in that hat. So peaceful. Go ahead.
If I can take only 1 minute, thank you so much, just 1 minute. Talking about size, in science, they're always bragging how big their telescopes are. And the last one they built can see all the way back to 1 second after the Big Bang. It's amazing. But as Ken Wapping says, does anyone ever ask what was before the Big Bang? So the largest telescopes that science can come up with sees right up to the Big Bang, but no one can see beyond the Big Bang. It's like everything started, at the big. No, I'm sorry, everything did not start at the Big Bang. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Everyone who participated. What a